wrap up 2012. I want to talk about the tax relief after 2012. I want to talk about 2013. And then I want to talk about this powerful real estate market that you have out there. I know it's challenging. I know it's frustrating. But believe me, guys, it's powerful for both buyers and sellers. And I'm going to talk to you about how I think you need to work this market, because I don't think we're working it as brightly as we should, okay? So let me start out by saying we closed GDP last year at about 2.5%. Now, look, that's not an economy that's on all cylinders, but at least it was positive. And I guess if I was going to say something about this economy, I'd say we were the best of the worst. That's basically where we're at right now. Because when you look at Europe, they're in a recession. They're in terrible shape over there. China's slowing down. Basically, Japan has its own problems. And so at the end of the day, we're the best of the worst. And that's why when you hear about the American economy, you're hearing some positive things about it. The stock market has been wonderful. It was down in 2009, basically to 7,000 on the Dow. Look what's happened. We closed the year at 13,003. We're close to 15,000 right now. Every day we seem to have an up day. We might have a correction of 10%, but that's just a correction. That's a bleep on the screen. I think the stock market is going to be very good this year. I think there's a couple of reasons for that. American consumers are going back into the stock market because the 10-year T-note, which is at 1.6 today, basically was up to 2%, but at 1.6, it's not a very attractive alternative. You go to the bank and what do you get? 1/4% interest, so you might as well just send them a check. But you're basically worrying even about getting any money. And at the end of the day, the stock market has been on a tear, so people are going back into the stock market. You have international investors coming here. They love the American stock market too. And so we see that businesses, they've trimmed down. They're borrowing money at 1%. We have a lot of mergers and acquisitions. And why is the stock market so important to us in the economy? Because we live in a valley that is run by technology, and obviously stock options, people that buy back stocks, companies that buy back their shares, people that get paid in stock. And so that creates good wealth for us, and obviously that is very, very important in this valley. So I think the stock markets are one of the best things that are out there. Mr. Bernanke, he's going to keep interest rates low for you, because with that unemployment number at 88,000, and you know we're not at 7.6%, we're probably more at 11 or 12% when they add everybody in. He is not going to raise interest rates too soon. I think he talks about inflation at 2% and basically unemployment at 6.5. Well, I hope that I live long enough to see unemployment again at 6.5% basically, or full employment, but I don't know that that's going to happen. So I think you're safe. He's buying both those bonds, long-term and short-term. He goes between $45 billion to $85 billion every month. I think he's going to continue to do that, and I don't think you're even going to have to worry about the fact that he's going to raise interest rates until probably next year. When he does, I don't know if it's going to be second quarter, first quarter, but I think he will do it in very small increments. So your buyers still have those wonderful rates, which are what, 3 to 4%, and so they should basically sit down and shut up because it's free money. That's exactly what they're getting out there, and I think that is going to continue. Now, I think that basically, let me talk a little bit about Congress, because they don't work. They basically are continuing to fight. I don't know whether they'll get anything done. Who knows and who cares? I think we should send them all home on a perpetual vacation. But they did pass the Tax Relief Act of 2012, and let me talk a little bit about that. The Tax Relief Act of 2012 was the result of the fact that they were supposed to last year come up with this wonderful budget and all these tax cuts and all these spending, basically restraints, and redo the tax code, and they didn't. And so we had something called sequestration, which came into effect. And of course, that was going to be so terrible that no one would ever want it. Well, we got it, and it started on March the 1st. And you've heard some things about that. No little kids can go through the White House. That's really a good way to save money in the United States of America with the $4 trillion basically budget that we have. Air traffic controllers now can go all back to work so everybody can fly. So this is a good thing. So at the end of the day, they did do something in January, the Tax Relief Act of 2012. So let me just kind of walk you through it, because it's a horrendous bill, but let me just give you the highlights. First of all, everybody got hit. This idea that only the middle class got hit is ridiculous, because first of all, they changed the tax you pay on Social Security. Last year you got a credit, and they brought it down from 6.6% to 4.2%. This year it went back to 6.6%. So if you're sitting in this room and you make $50,000 a year, you're going to pay $1,000 more against your Social Security tax. If you make $100,000, you're going to pay $2,000 more against your Social Security. So that basically hits everybody. They did raise the income tax rate. If you make $400,000 and you're single, or $450,000 and you're married, it went from 36% to 39.6%. Now, they did two other things that they haven't told you about that are going to affect a lot of people. One is obviously you get deductions. So if you live in a family and you support somebody, you get a deduction. It's about $3,800 a year. If you make $250,000 this year in adjusted gross income, they're taking away those deductions. So if you have kids at home, tell them to go hit the streets. That's what you need to do. They need to go out and make a living. You got to get them off your rolls. The second thing is exemptions. Now you get exemptions. What do you get exemptions from? You get exemptions from those kids you support, and then we get deductions. Deductions what? Charitable contributions, property taxes, sales taxes, and at-home mortgage interest deduction. So let me tell you what they've done. Let's talk about the way it works. Home mortgage interest deduction. I don't know that people really understand it. Let's say I had a $300,000 a year income last year. I was in the 35% tax bracket. I declared a $10,000 interest deduction on my home. Everyone thinks I get that $10,000 as a deduction against the $300,000, and they tax me now on $290,000. That is not how it works. The way that it works is the $10,000 gets put against your income tax rate. So I would get $3,500 against the $10,000 because I was in the 35% tax bracket. You do not get a dollar for a dollar. That's already in effect, and it's been there forever. The other thing that they hit you for in your mortgage interest is something called the alternative minimum tax. That hits people that make more than $150,000 if you're single or $190,000 if you're married. And what that means is I basically made too much money, they think. So they're going to take that $3,500 and they're going to reduce it even further, and they're going to say, okay, you're not getting $10,000. You could get $3,500, but you made too much money, so against your mortgage interest deduction, we're only going to give you a credit of $2,800. That's currently in effect. What they've added this year is something called the PEAS program, and the PEAS program says if you make $300,000 and you're single, or $350,000 if you're married, they're going to take an additional 3% and deduct that even further and hit you for that against whatever you have in the way of basically deductions against charity, property taxes, mortgage interest, etc. So I think that we basically have to understand that's coming. Now what's going to come with the home mortgage deduction? I think they're going to hit it within the next 5 years, guys. I think you're safe for the next couple of years because nobody in Congress that's running for re-election has the guts to get out. But it's big bucks. It's the second biggest tax credit that we get in the United States government. The problem with it is 75% of it goes to 4 states. California, New York, Florida, and Texas. So the rest of the country doesn't care. They don't give a you-know-what. They only care about what they're going to get. So I think here's what's going to happen. They're probably going to grandfather people in, so if you're already getting the old method, they'll probably keep you on that. They're probably going to cap it, but they can't cap it at the national average because that's about $183,000, and you can't buy a block of cement in Saratoga for $183,000. So we'd all basically have to secede from the union, and I'm not against that, believe me. I think that basically California, if we were a country, we would be the 8th largest country economy-wise in the world. Northern California, the 22nd. So look at it. If they get too tough from Washington, we can just secede and have our own country, and the hell with Washington. Tell us, don't send us any bucks because we don't need you. We'll take care of ourselves. But at the end of the day, they're probably going to cap it. It's probably going to be by medium or average price by county. I think that's what they're going to do. They're going to make it on one home. You can't deduct more than one because they're going to figure if you own multiple houses, you're rich, so you should pay the tax. And the other thing they might do is say, okay, you buy a property, a principal residence, you take out a loan, that's great, that's the cap. And basically you cannot basically do all these refis and keep adding that to your basically exemptions or deductions that you're going to get from the government on your income tax. So I don't think you need to worry about it right now because I think it's a few years out, but I think eventually when they start to get serious about how we're going to cut spending, that is going to be on the table. Now what else did they do with this Tax Relief Act? They talked about capital gains and dividends. So let's talk about capital gains. Short-term capital gains under a year, you've always paid at your income tax rate. Long-term capital gains, they were 15% last year. They've gone up to 20% this year. And there is something in the Obama health care bill that you need to know about. It's called the investment tax. And what it says is if you have a $250,000 adjusted gross income, you will pay an additional 3.8% tax on all your capital gains, any dividends that you get, interest income, and any kind of rental income that you get. So capital gains now for many people have gone from 15 to 20 to almost 25% on the federal level. You add in the state level and we can be at about 30–35%. That's obviously going to affect the way some people think about things like real estate because all that is involved with that. So that's in there. They also extended the estate tax. It was $5 million last year and then you paid a tax. This year you can have $5 million you can give away if you're single, $10 million if you're married. After that, 40% of everything that you leave is going to go to the United States government. So spend it, save it. When you basically get to the point where you're basically only have a few bucks left, it's time to die. That's it. So you don't have to basically take it or do anything with it. They also extended the unemployment, which is a good and bad thing. I guess it's good if you need it, but we have people 22 years old who have been on unemployment for 4 years and they think they're on a sabbatical and you never have to work in America. So I don't know whether that's good or bad. So that's sort of the Tax Relief Act of 2012. What do I think about it? I think it's the way that it is and that's the way it is. Now the Democrats have put forth a budget, the Republicans have put forth the budget, the President has put forth the budget. None of them are going to pass, so that's a good thing because they're all terrible when you look at them in their entirety. I'll just give you a few tidbits about the President's budget. He would like to raise capital gains to 30% right out of the hoop. He wants to raise the tax rates, obviously, some more for people who are wealthy. The biggest thing I think that's in there that's going to be the most onerous is this. He's talked about IRAs and basically people who have 401ks. He's exempted all the unions because they do usually pension plans and anybody that does deferred compensation. Now what's deferred compensation? Well, let's say that you're the head of General Electric. You can have a plan that defers your compensation so you don't take all your stock and the bonuses that you get, you put it in a pool for when you retire, and then you take it when you retire because your income tax rate is less. But he would like to take the average ordinary citizen, self-employed people that have 401ks and IRAs, and he wants to max you out at $3 million. That's the most you can put away in your lifetime, or when the income from those becomes $205,000. So what he's saying is you can't basically save beyond $3 million in your lifetime. That is never going to pass because there's too many people. I gave you something about Obamacare because we have to talk about that. Now let me just give you some statistics about Obamacare, because here's my concerns about this economy. My concerns about the economy is I think we're going to grow at 2.5% again, all right? I don't think we're going to get to that magic 3%. I wish we could, but we can't. So we're sort of stuck there, and why is that? Because of the debt, the deficit, the fact that Congress won't do anything to get serious about things. But I gave you something today that came out, and basically this is Obamacare, and let me talk to you a little bit about it. It is really going to affect us in some ways. Now, first of all, 6 million of 19 people, basically, that are going to go into Obamacare are going to see an increase in their, basically, insurance rates. Now, let me tell you that that's going to range this year from 8 to basically 30%, depending upon where you live. That's number one. The reason for that is because these insurance companies now have to take everybody, whether you're sick or not, and they also have to cover all kinds of things that have been added that weren't added before. Also, if you're single, 21 to 29, do you realize what they're going to do? A lot of them don't even have insurance, so they're going to have rates that are going to be absolutely astronomical, probably up 40% from anything they probably currently could get because they get very minimal. And what they're going to do, a lot of them, is wait till they get really sick, then they'll go get insurance, then they'll go out of it, then they'll go back in it, and so then that's going to mean everybody who needs insurance because we're older are going to have to pay more. You know that. 30 million people who work in companies, listen to this. Those people basically are going to see all the kinds of things that they had gotten, some of the benefits cut. But here's the other thing that companies are going to do. Let's say you're General Motors and you employ 300,000 people. Do you know that attached to Obamacare there is a $63 admin fee for every worker you have above and beyond what you're contributing as a company for insurance? Do you realize what $63 times 300,000 people is, and puts that burden on them right away? In state programs, if you don't have a state program, your insurance can go up 200% because the state insurance programs that are going to be funded by the federal government in part will absolutely help keep costs basically down at that 8 to 10% increase level. If you don't have one, and 14 states already say they will not agree to it because they think that they're going to run out of money, the federal government, and they're going to be stuck paying all of it, so those people in those states are going to be paying an enormous amount. At the end of the day, they say 30 to 40 million people are going to pay more for their insurance because of Obamacare. And I'm not for it or against it. I just gave you something so you can read it because it is a horrendous bill and it's a horrendous act. There are also 21 tax increases in it. And I just want to go back to one thing, which is none of the congressmen, none of the senators ever read this bill before they signed it. That's the problem. And it needs to be readjusted. Okay. Now, let me talk a little bit about our economy here because that's very different. I think we're an island surrounded by idiots. That's what I always say about the Northern California Bay Area. We're on a revolution here, you know that. Half of all the jobs that have been created come out of Silicon Valley. We're on a tear here, and that's part of the reason why you have a great real estate market. The other thing is you have to think of the San Francisco Bay Area as an international environment. And you guys should talk that because San Francisco's the hub and all the rest are the spokes. And basically when you think about it, what makes us international? Well, we're one of the most visited cities in the world. You know that. We're always in the top 10. We have Stanford and Cal, so we have two institutions of learning and research and development that are world class. We have a great diversity of culture, diversity of employment. We're within 4 to 5 hours of where you can find a different kind of lifestyle, so you can go to the snow or whatever. We're the gateway to the Pacific Rim, which is very important when you're an international city. And I think the next thing is we have something very unique. It's called Silicon Valley, and you know what they're doing there. Silicon Valley and San Francisco are being reinvented. If you go to San Francisco now, it looks like a construction zone because they're tearing things down. Look at the Presidio, look at Treasure Island, go down to the Central Bay Terminal, go down to South of Market, go to the Intermission. Everything is being redone, and it's going to absolutely be beautiful and glorious. When you come down to Silicon Valley, you know what they're doing. 50 years ago, they threw up those crappy office buildings that everybody hates because they look too vanilla. But you know what they're going to begin to do now. Apple's going to build a big spaceship with the glass. I was at Intel yesterday. They're going to be building a new building. It's all going to be pyramids that are going to jut at angles, all psychedelic colors. And the tops are going to be Intel chips that glisten and twinkle at night. Isn't that going to be beautiful? And Facebook, I was there the other day also, and they took the old Sun Microsystems space, and they're going to look at building something that looks like a jungle gym at a park with all tubes and layers that all connect. So what I can tell you is Silicon Valley, not only is it the heart of technology, which means that it's basically one of the leading industries of the economies of the world, but architecturally it's going to be a place that's going to be world-renowned and everybody's going to want to visit. So we certainly are an international city. Now, international cities have to have one other thing. Because they're usually very expensive, you have to have spokes off of them where you have communities where people can go and actually have affordable living. And though everybody complains about Northern California, let's talk about places like Vallejo and Richmond and Newark. And you can go to that part of the bay. Now you have to commute, but you know what? The weather's nice. They're young, beautiful communities, and you certainly can buy something over there for $187,000. And you certainly don't have to live in Saratoga, which is beautiful, and I love it because I lived here for a long time. But obviously, it's a lot more expensive. So you have to have a mix that accommodates a lot of different people at different income levels, because otherwise, you really can't have a hub of an international city. So we have that. Now let me talk for a minute about this real estate market, and I want to talk to you about why I think it's a powerful market. Let me give you some statistics. Going back to 1997 to 2005, residential real estate went up 21%, condominiums 16%. Then we started to hit the downturn, and on average we're down 20–25%. Now some areas got hit 60–70%, but we're down. Now, let's go and look at what's happening. You've got some things there that say we were up 24% in February, we're up 21% in March in price appreciation. Case-Shiller came out today and said all the 10 and 20 cities are up. We're up 18% in basically price appreciation from 1 year ago in the San Francisco Bay Area. And so basically those are very good numbers. I think the 24 and 21 you have to probably cut it maybe almost in half, because last year lower price was selling, higher price is selling. This year that skews the numbers. But here's what we do know. We do know that sales are down still 6% both in February and March, so you don't have any inventory. You do know that. It's very slight. We know that on average it's taking here in our area between 14 and 20 days to sell a property if it's priced at the right price, versus the nation, which can run from 38 to 78 days. Foreclosures have gone down here from 50% all the way down to the high 20s, so that's a very good improvement. Short sales are staying at about 24 to 27%. We also know that the mix of buyers has changed. Basically, first-time buyers that used to be 50% of the market are down to about 33. Do you know that last year 27% of every buyer in the San Francisco Bay Area was an international buyer? We have at least 37 to 40% all cash now in the San Francisco Bay Area as of last month. So the numbers speak of a very good market. But let me try to talk to you about what I think is happening in this market. How many of you saw the Super Bowl? A lot of you? Did you all see the Super Bowl? Okay. I think that here's what happened in the Super Bowl, and I'm going to try to relate it to real estate if I can. I am a 49er fan and a diehard one, but I definitely believe that the 49er coach was outplayed by his brother and out-strategized by his older brother every which way from Sunday. And let me tell you what I mean. You can either play in a sports offense or defense. You can never be a champion if all you're going to do is play defense. You have got to get out there and play offense. And how do I relate that to what you're doing now in the real estate market? You go out there, you make an offer. You go out there, you make an offer. You go out there, you make an offer. You lose it, you lose it, you lose it. All right? And I understand the challenge. How do you find the right price? You can't use the comps. Appraisals aren't working. You don't know what fair market value is. That's the market. That's the way it is. So you try to defend your position. You're afraid to sit down with your buyers and give them the come to Jesus, what you need to do, which is to say to them, if you want to live in certain areas, this is how we have to play ball. We can't start here and work up to here because here's what happens. Basically, when there's 36 offers, people aren't looking at 36 offers. They're taking the top 3 offers, and you know what the top 3 offers have to be. Probably all cash, no financing contingency, no appraisal. You keep in an inspection contingency. Now you know what everybody's doing, increasing the deposit, because that's also wowing the sellers, and maybe you put a time frame on it. So what you need to say to people is, if we don't want to play that game and we're not in the top 3, then guess what? We need to go look someplace else. Let's go look in Vallejo. We're in Vallejo, believe me, you can get a house, and you don't have to be all cash. And everybody always says to me, well, what do I do with my buyers that basically need a loan? What the hell can I tell you? I was someplace yesterday where a woman said to me, but he's a lawyer and he has $1 million in a loan. I said, so what? That means nothing, because what he's doing is he's trying to get into an area where the homes are $3 million and everybody has $3 million in cash. He's got $1 million loan. He's a lawyer. Who cares? They want the tech guy with $3 million cash in a suitcase, 10-day close, that can basically bring it to your house tonight, and that's how you need it. So at the end of the day, you got to play offense. Do you understand? And you need to tell these people, we can only play the right game in the right area, and if you don't want to play the right game, then let's just go look someplace else, or let's wait, because it isn't going to work. Look, I feel sorry for you if you don't have all cash, but that's the way it is right now. So at the end of the day, you got to play some offense too. Now, here's what I know happened. Basically, Jim did his little clipboard, all right? They do the first 20 plays of any game, right? And he went in and said, I'm going to defend my players, and we're going to defend against the Ravens, because that's what we're going to do. His brother knew a couple of things. The 49ers are a very inconsistent team. You know that. Because basically one day they go play and they're 21 points ahead, and the next week they come out, they brought in the ice hockey team, and they're on the toilet, and they're a comeback team. That's what I call them. They always come back after the second half, and they have to play like hell to catch up. See, playing like hell to catch up isn't a good thing to do. See, that's playing, again, defense instead of being aggressive. So here's what the brother knew. They're an inconsistent team. They never lost a Super Bowl. All the gambling odds were for them. They had a new coach and a new 49er. So basically, a new 49er quarterback. So what he knew was they're coming in with tremendous pressure. Look at the films. Every time the 49ers come against a really good team, they fall apart in the first half. So what he said is, I got to go out there. I'm not going to defend against them. I'm going to play like hell and be offensive, take some risks. I got to get on the scoreboard first half, because they'll come back in the second half and they're going to play like hell, and then I'm going to lose. And that's exactly what he did. So you guys keep going out there doing the same things, right? Thinking you're going to win because you don't want to sit your clients down and give them the come to Jesus, which is, look, we got to play offensively or we're not going to win here. And then what happens? They get frustrated, they get mad, and then they fire you, because who do you think that they fire? Because they're saying there's 13 offers. Well, somebody got it. I want that agent. That agent got that house for those people. So you don't know what the hell you're doing. So I'll fire you because I want that agent, all right? Second thing, We come back after the second half. Do you remember? Okay, so Beyonce can sing. We all know that. We got it. Life is good. All right. Now, there's a special teams coach sitting up in the booth, right? I would have fired him. If I had been the coach, I would have called him. I know Gina would have done the same thing. I would have called him and said, get the hell out of my company. Get out of that booth. Go home. You should be basically doing an elevator in a store. You don't know what the hell you're doing. Because if you had watched the films, we're now going to kick to the Ravens, right? So they're down there waiting for the ball. And if you had looked at the Ravens films, there's a little guy standing under the goalpost, right? And basically, if you looked at the films, when you get the ball at the goalpost, you usually go down on your knees and you bring the ball to the 20-yard line. That's the way it works. Not this little guy. This little guy, every time, all last year, he got the ball, he ran like hell, okay? So who do you think they kick to? They have a whole choice there. They kick to this little guy. He runs down the field. Do you remember that? And the 49ers are all on the side looking, saying, oh my God, is that a 49er in the wrong outfit? Maybe we're going to make a touchdown. Nobody is even on this guy. I mean, like, hello? Can't you anticipate a little? You know what kind of market you are. What is your expectation? You should understand what you have that's challenging and frustrating and what you need to do. Next thing. We're down at the 5-yard line. Do you remember that one? We're down at the 5-yard line. One play is bad. 3 other plays, he throws the ball to the same guy who's being double guarded. Now, why are you doing that? Why do you do the same thing over and over again? And look, you got a line there. The line defends the quarterback. They all look like refrigerators. They weigh 350 pounds. You know what they look like. You take one and push them, push them, push them. All you need is a yard, a yard, a yard. Or take that stupid quarterback and throw him over everybody. He only weighs 120 pounds. What the hell? Get the goddamn touchdown. So you got to get to win. You have to go in with the mentality and let them understand this is a game we need to win. All right, now, let's relate it to real estate a little bit. The first thing is, here's the deal. You have to understand the right price. Now, what I mean by that is, I don't care what the list price is. The first thing you have to do with your clients is, you have to explain to them why it's listed the way it is. It could be listed right, but it could be listed wrong. Why is it listed the way it is? Is it listed really low to get multiple offers? Now, I'm going to give you an example. I'm in an office, and a woman says to me, this property was listed with 1-1. I got my clients to 1-3. And we didn't get it, and they were very upset. That's $200,000 over. What did it go for? It went for $1.5 million. I said to her, why did you start with $1.1 million? The first question you should have asked yourself was, did it need to start at $1.1 million? She said, no, it should have started at $1.3 million. I said, so then how could your clients possibly have gotten the property? What you're telling me is they got to $1.2 million, $1.25 million, $1.3 million. That's where it should have started. So you need to say to people, this is a great list price. This is where we should start. This is the wrong place to start. We can't start here. They have underpriced this property, and it really should be at $1.3 million. So if you can't even think $1.3 million, and now we need to go up, then forget it, because we are not going to be in the top 3 offers. The second thing, there is a formula. Now, let me give you the formula and tell you how the formula works. There's a formula, and the formula works this way. You need to try to find out how many offers there are. Now, I know what you're going to say to me, how do we do that? Well, look, guys, you know what's selling and what's not selling. So if you're going into an area where there's been a recent sale, you know at the end of the day how many offers there have been. Come on, guys. I hear it all day long. There's 12 offers. Oh, gee, there were 15 on this house. Well, you know a couple of things. Only one person got it, right? So there's still 12 people looking. Now, let's say 2% of those back out of the market because they're frustrated, but maybe 2% more come in. So you sort of have an idea how many offers. So after you determine where you really need to start with your clients, then we have to figure out where we're going to go. And where we're going to go is based on the number of offers that you think are going to come in. Now, you can call the agent. They can tell you. They can maybe not tell you. I'm going to give you a formula. If they tell you or you know there's going to be double-digit offers, you take the formula I'm going to give you and you cut that number in half. So if there were going to be 20 offers, the formula and the numbers I give you, you're only going to base it on 10. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Because I'll tell you why. Nobody looks at the double-digit offers. There's only 3 that count, and all the rest are bogus, believe me. I was in San Jose the other day, there was 100 and some odd offers on a property. That is ridiculous. Those were not good offers. There aren't 100 people that could even afford that property, believe me. They're just people making an offer that basically need an FHA loan. They're never going to get it. Nobody cares. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, forget it. You don't want to put that in your formula. Okay, write this down. 200,000 to 400,000. You're going to have $5,000 to $75,000 per offer. That's what you have to go up, and the range is based on basically location and condition of the property. Anything from 400,000 to 800,000 is going to be 10,000 to 15,000 per offer. Anything from 800,000 to 2 million is going to be from 20,000 to 30,000 per offer. Anything basically from 2 to 5 million is going to be probably 35 to 50. Anything over 5 million is going to be from 50 to 100,000. Now let's see if the formula works. Does anybody know of a property that was listed that went over the list price and they know what it ended up at and how many offers they had? Somebody must have one here. Does somebody have one?
Yes.
Okay, give me one. Who has one?
Like one property was like $635.
All right, wait a minute. Was that the right price?
No.
What should it have been?
I think a little bit underpriced, about $650 maybe.
How much? $650. Okay, somebody write that down. $650 for me. Okay. And how many offers were there?
I think there were about 24.
Okay, so we're going to cut that in half. We're going to make it 12. And at $650, what did I give you the number? How much?
10,000.
No, what was the range?
5.
What
10
was
to
it?
15,000
10 to 15.
per
Would
offer.
you have done it at 10 or 15,000 for each offer?
Probably 10.
At 10. So 10 times 12 is another 120,000. So let's take 650 and add 120,000, and what do you get? Then how much did it sell for?
$750.
You got it, guys, okay? Are you listening to me? You got it down now? Okay, you got it? Do you get it? Does everybody in this room get it? You need to get it, okay? I'm telling you, it works. And you need to give them that, because you can't just say to somebody, oh, it's not right, it should have been listed at $650. They'll buy into that. But sometimes it's 200,000 or 300,000. You got to give them the formula, because what I just said is we had to move 120,000, and they needed to be there on the first offer. Do you understand what I'm saying? And here's why. Now let's continue. You got to be in the top 3, okay? And the second reason is you got to wow the seller. That's it. Look, I love this when people say to me, but they're not hearing offers till next Friday, Carol. What the hell do I care whether you're going to hear offers? I could be dead by next Friday. I'm old. I want to call up the listing agent and I want to say to them, look, listen to me. I have a AAA buyer who's willing to go $120,000 over where this property is listed. All cash, no financing contingency. They will increase the deposit from 3 to 10%, and I have a cashier's check here that I can bring to you. Now, here's my problem. That's going to be great. You're going to wow your sellers. I can't wait till next Monday, and here's why. I have very frustrated buyers. They have been on 4 deals with me, and we're going to lose these people because they said this offer's only going to be good till 4 o'clock today. So I got to get you in front of your basic sellers, and you need to tell them you're getting everything you want. AAA buyers, right? You're getting multiple offers because we're 120,000 over list. All cash, no financing contingency, 10% versus 3. Cashier's check already here. Proof that there's money in the bank, and guess what? It's only going to be good to 4 o'clock. So you can wait till Monday and play the game and hope you're going to get even more than 120,000, or you can have a signed contract by 4:10 tonight. That's what you can have. So I think you need to be very offensive, not defensive. Now let me tell you a story. I have an aunt that's 91 years old, all right? And she's what I call cash poor, asset rich. So her daughter and I are conservators of her estate, and she has care around the clock. And we're at the point now where we have to sell a condominium in order to pay the care that's there around the clock. So we don't even put it on the market. She doesn't want to use us. She has an agent she likes because she doesn't trust me. She doesn't trust her daughter. Naturally, we're family. Why would she want to do that, right? So we're just thinking about it, and we got to get her out because we know we're going to redo it a little bit, and you can't do that with a 91-year-old in a house. Luckily for us, a unit right below her comes up for rent. It's been totally redone. So we rent it, my niece and my cousin and I, and we're paying rent now on a unit. So we got to get her out of there pretty fast because she doesn't have enough cash to support the help, so she certainly doesn't have enough to support 2 houses. So we get 12 offers, and it's not even on the MLS. We hadn't even priced it. We don't know anything, just word gets around the condominium. So she gets this agent she likes, comes up and prices it for $565, because one had sold a month earlier for $585, but it was totally redone. So he wanted to set it a little bit low to try to get even more offers than the 12, but at the same time not ridiculous. All right. So we get basically another at least 8 offers, all right? We don't even look at except the top 3. They're all cash, no financing, no appraisal contingency. We kept in the inspection contingency. We wanted that for our protection, not only theirs. And we wanted to make sure that how do we look at the differences now? Well, they were all close to $700,000. One of them was $10,000 more than every other one, all right? And basically, they didn't have the increased deposit, but we went back to them and told them they needed to increase it to 10%, and they said they were willing to do that. We eventually took the one that was $10,000 less, and let me tell you why. Because number one, the one that was $10,000 less was presented to us by a parent couple who had flown in from Beijing for the weekend to buy a condominium for their daughter. They were looking at 4 condominiums, all right? The one that was $10,000 less brought up the deposit to 10%. Their money was in stock, sitting in a stock account where they had $800,000. But here's the deal. The other people had cash sitting in an American bank. So we're thinking, my cousin and I, if we don't take this deal, because these people were going home on a plane the next day, so goodbye. In other words, they had to be here to sign, and we had to sign it. We figured of the $10,000, 5's going to the government and capital gains. So for $5,000, how do I know what's going to happen to the stock market from now till Monday? The little guy from North Korea could blow up the world, right? And that little stupid Dennis Rodman is the stupidest person that ever lived, you know that. At the end of the day, they had stock. I don't know what's going to happen to the stock market between now and Monday. Look at Netflix one day. Look at Herbalife one day. I don't know what kind of stocks this guy has. All I have is a letter from a stock brokerage that says he has $800,000 sitting in stock. It could be all crap stock. What do I know? So at the end of the day, we had somebody who gave us $10,000 less, but all cash sitting in a bank here in the United States of America, available and accessible. They brought the cashier check with their contract, and at the end of the day, we took that one. So I think putting a time frame on it, getting the seller to have to respond to you a little bit quicker, may be able to help you. Now, at the end of the day, you got to wow the seller. That's the other thing, all right? And I think the way you do that is to tell these people, look, you've got AAA buyers now. Over time, this market is going to go down to AA buyers, then single A buyers. Then we're going to be back at the point where you're going to be waiting a long time to sell the house, hoping that the loan comes through, okay? They have no inventory competition. I know that's a challenge from you on the other side, but their crappy house all of a sudden looks beautiful because guess what? It's the only one that's up there. So you don't have a choice. And I know the problem with people selling and why you can't get a lot of listings is some people are underwater, all those things we know. But a lot of people say, where am I going to go? That's the biggest problem is, great, I can sell my house, I can make a lot of money, but where in the hell am I going to go? So find me something where I can go. So we've got to get these sellers that are basically listed to respond a little bit better so we can get some momentum going. At the end of the day, interest rates are going to stay low, and that we know, but next year it's going to start to basically move, and that will start to turn the market. So let me try to talk to you a little bit about this market and why I think it's powerful. It's powerful, obviously, for buyers if they understand what they need to do, and you give them the pre-discussion that you need to give them, okay? It's powerful for sellers because they have AAA buyers, low interest rates, all cash. They can get out. You just got to find them someplace to go. So I call this a powerful market. Now, every market is different, and you've got 14 markets, even under Saratoga, and you do understand that. So you have to know certain things, guys, and make some assumptions. That's your job in this market. You got to be a little bit of a risk taker, and you got to play offense. You can't play defense because here's what's going to happen. You run out of time. That's why, and you're going to lose the client. Like the 49ers could have won that game, but they ran out of time. Let me give you the last thing. Do you remember when the Raven coach had the ability to make the 2 extra points? And what did he know? He knew this. If he took that opportunity, he was going to give the 49ers more time on the clock. All right? Now, here's the deal. He was only 3 points ahead. He risked all of that because he knew one thing. If he gave him that, he would have given him 4 seconds on the clock. By bypassing the ability to get the extra 2 points, he only left them 1 second on the clock. And here's the deal. You can get off of playing football in 4 seconds, but you can't in 1 second. And that gave him the Lombardi Trophy. Now, Jim will learn, but his brother out-strategized him, outmaneuvered him, was a risk taker, and played offense, which is what you need to do. Now, how long is this market going to last? Well, you have a market that I think now is like a flower in the spring. It's in full bloom, okay? It's lush, the brightest color, open completely, and you guys are having this good, frustrating, wonderful time in the market. Now, I think it's going to be a 3 to 5 year cycle, okay? And I think when you look back over the 3 to 5 year cycle, you're not going to have 18, 20% appreciation. In the areas that we're going to hit harder and basically are going to take longer to come back, you're probably going to have 6 to 8% appreciation. In the really hot areas, when you look at Palo Alto, Cupertino, you come down to some of these areas, you know, Atherton, whatever, you're probably going to have double digit, probably 10 to 12, over the period of 3 to 5 years. Now, the market is going to go up like this for a while. I think you're going to have this probably as long as things stay pretty decent. If Congress doesn't screw up everything, let's hope they don't. I think eventually towards the end of the year it's going to start to trend down a little bit, all right? You're going to get a little bit more inventory. It's not going in the toilet, guys, because you have a very different buyer. The buyers that can buy now can afford it. They have to put money down if they get a loan. They're going to live there 5 to 7 years. It's not going to be the same, okay? And this valley is coming back pretty substantially. You'll know that the market begins to change when a few things happen, all right? And there's going to be an inflection point, and that's when it's going to start to trend down. When appreciation starts to moderate, when inventory grows, when interest rates start to go up, when basically you have new developers who are now starting to build again, basically have some building and they're done and they can basically provide more inventory, and when you go from the AAA all-cash buyers down to the AA buyers who actually need a loan. When those things all happen, and they can happen all at once, one can happen at one time, certain things can happen, then the market will begin to trend down a little bit, and I think you'll go from a very powerful sort of frenetic market to one that's less powerful and probably less frenetic, but you're still going to have a good market, and I'll tell you why. There is something called TINA. You want to think about this and put this down. There is no other alternative. Right now, you've got 2 places you can put your money. You can put it either in the stock market or you can put it in real estate. Gold is absolutely not working. The commodities market is way too volatile. You don't want to be in Europe, which is in a recession and a mess. You know what happened with Cyprus. The reason why Cyprus got into trouble is because they only have 2 banks there. They have no economy. They're a tourist trap where everybody goes because it's beautiful there, or where Russians took all their money they stole from Russia and put it in the 2 banks in Cyprus, and it all went bad. So when the European Common Bank had to give them money, they wouldn't loan them money unless they put half of it up themselves in Cyprus, and they couldn't do that because they have no economy. They don't have any assets to put up. So what they had to do is tax the depositors, and that's what they've done. And everybody else, Spain, Portugal, Ireland, Italy, they keep needing money every 5 minutes. You know that. And so the guy at the European Common Bank has opened the spigot. That's Mario Draghi, because he's from Italy, and he knows if he doesn't give it to the Italians, when he gets off the plane in Italy, when he goes home, the mafia will be waiting for him, and he'll end up in a stadium in New York underneath in a bag of cement. You know that. So at the end of the day, the spigot is open. The euro is only stabilized at 130 because they keep buying the euro. He buys it, we buy it to keep it stabilized, because otherwise the euro is worth nothing, okay? And now China, don't worry about it. Poor China, only going to grow at 7% this year, so everybody's crying over there because they used to grow at 10%. We can cry for them, but not too much. Japan, now they've opened the spigot. They're trying to get people to basically go out and spend money. They're doing a big, huge infrastructure thing. So see, at the end of the day, TINA, America, the crappy dollar, it is the international currency of choice right now. There is no other alternative. We're the best of the worst, and as crappy as our economy may seem nationally, it's still better than the rest of the world. Our real estate, our stock market are shining stars out there, okay? So you guys are in for a challenging, but I think good year, all right? So listen, stay focused. Have these pre-conversations. Go play offense. You can't win by playing defense. And what you need to do is be in the top 3, and you need to have a contract, not an offer. A contract is 90% there. Do you understand what I'm saying? You got to be 90% there going in out of the hoop. You got to hit the home run, the first up at bat. That's it. You can't run around the bases here with the markets you've got that are multi-offer. You have a client that wants to do that, I'll tell you where to go. Go to Union City. Go to Daly City. I can give you lots of areas that are wonderful. But this woman that said to me that this person wanted to live in Danville or wanted to live, I don't know, someplace over there, the lawyer with the $1 million, and I mean, she was just amazed that I would say that to her. She said, how can you do that? How can you insult my client that's a lawyer that has $1 million? I said, I'm not insulting your client, I'm just telling him the truth. Because sitting against him is a tech guy with $3 million in cash. Now, I'm a seller. I'm looking at your lawyer with the $1 million that he has to get a loan. Maybe he'll get it, maybe he won't. Maybe the world will blow up. I got a tech guy, 35 years old, has got $3 million sitting in a bank with cash, can bring it in a suitcase, Louis Vuitton for me, please. At the end of the day, what do you think, I'm stupid? I didn't insult him. I'm taking advantage of the best deal in town. That's it. That's the way the world works. That's why we're a capitalistic society. This is not the Soviet Union. So I feel sorry for your attorney. I don't know what to tell you. And I said, here's the problem with America today. I said, I started out in Daly City and ended up in a home in Monte Sereno eventually in Hillsborough. We have young people today who want to start out in Monte Sereno and they want to start out in Hillsborough and they're all going to end up homeless. That's exactly what's going to happen to them. They don't get it. The key is for everybody when they complain, well, I couldn't live any place but Saratoga. I couldn't live any place. What you need to say to them is great because you're never going to be able to live there because the key is you have to get in first. See, you must get in. There's the key. So if we have to go to the borders, if you got to go to Campbell or someplace else to start, you got to get in. Because getting in is how you build up. You can't start at the top unless you have the means to do that. You got to get in. Getting in is the key to getting up. That's the key. All right, I talked a long time. I gave you some good handouts, I hope. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Any questions for me?
Any suggestions for the poor little FHA buyers?
I just answered that question. Take them where they can afford. That's it. Look, take them where they can afford. And let me tell you what's going to happen to FHA in June. The down payments are going from 3 to 5% in June. FHA, 3 to 5% the down payments. And PMI is going to be on for the life of the loan. Yeah, that's already coming. Yeah, it's supposed to be starting in June, but I think it's already coming. Anyway, that's it. What you need to tell the poor guy from FHA, look, you're lucky you can get a loan. That's a wonderful thing. We need to start someplace like San Jose or Lower, whatever. That's it. You'll work your way up. Any questions? Yes.
Yeah. So you mentioned the increasing the deposit.
Yes.
Is there a price range where that wows more than others?
Well, it isn't if it wows more, it's how much you increase the deposit. Let me just tell you, the higher the priced home, the increase has to be larger. Because if you put, 3 to 5% on a $300,000 condominium, that may wow somebody. But if you go from 3 to 5% on a $3 million property, that isn't going to wow anybody. I know somebody in the city that, listen to this, $35 million, just bought a house that's basically on Broadway Street that belonged to Melvin Belli. Remember him, the attorney, the wacko kind of attorney, kind of was a creative, kind of fun guy. Well, it was bought by a young man, 35 years old, all right, whose family has a lot of money. They put down a 50% deposit. Are you kidding? To wow the seller. So I think it isn't how much, it's how much you do against whatever the price is of the property. Because the higher up you get, the larger the increase in the deposit has to be to wow the seller. Because on a $10 million home, if you put up an extra $100,000, that doesn't wow. But if you put up an extra $1 million, that'll wow. All right? Yeah. Any more questions for me? Well, it's great to be here. I have a couple of dates to come back. Tom's always so good to let me do
Good.
that.
Thanks, Carol. All right, everybody. Thanks for coming. That's a wrap. Everybody keep out there cranking. We'll see you guys next week.